world. I'm Tina Spalding, and this is Kieran Spalding. He's my young man and a Course in Miracles student and practitioner. And the other man on the panel here is Ken Berenson. He is my technical advisor and savior and spiritual student and practitioner. So we have Ken in England, Kieran on the west coast of Canada, and I'm on the west coast of Canada too at this point. So this is our second. You guys can say hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, glad to be here again. It's fun coming to do these things. It's really cool. Technology nowadays lets us get together with. We got 100 attendees right now. That's pretty good.
That's fabulous.
Counting.
Yeah, heading up as well.
So
I'm sure we'll have a few more joiners as time goes by.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people probably doing what I did. I had the wrong server on and it wouldn't let me access it. So we're all learning this stuff.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of this one, I thought I would just let you know what our plans are. This event, of course, is free, and the next one is going to be free as well. But we are actually going to start what we're calling a year of forgiveness, and we are asking people to sign up to that year of forgiveness as part of their dedication to their practice. So the monthly fee is going to be $35, and that will be a subscription. And what that will allow you to access is a minimum of 2 live streaming events in a month and up to 4. So we may very well add a couple more in there, but we just don't want to make that commitment at this point because we are all over the world. So we're going to start with a guaranteed number of 2. And that will also allow you to access the library of all of these things. So this library is not going to be on YouTube. It's going to be for subscribers who are dedicating themselves to this year of conversations with Ananda and Jesus. So that's what we're planning. So if you enjoy these, please consider subscribing, because this ongoing support and conversation is really good. You know, we have a lot of programming coming to us from the world, and in doing A Course in Miracles, it's really good to have these reminders and these resources to call upon when we're having a tough time. So I watched the video of last week's broadcast, and there was a lot of information in there for students, so it's really good. Kieran seems to be gone.
I am still here.
Oh, I can't see your picture. I wonder if everyone else can.
Yeah, hopefully.
Can you see him? Oh, there he is. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the pictures just go on when you're talking, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Ah, okay, that's clever.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I think this can be a really good resource for people, especially if you don't have people necessarily in your area who or around you taking part in a lot of stuff like this. I know living on Salt Spring where I live, there's a lot of access for me and my mom for people on the same path, but it's not like that in a lot of places. So if you guys feel like subscribing to this, it can be a really good forum for you guys to interact with us and stay up to date with all the new information that's coming through, and have a place to chat about it and stuff. It'd be cool.
Yeah, and I have to add to that Tina is an amazing channeler. It's so much good information coming from her, so it's priceless, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So.
thanks. Okay, shall we see who's got a question for us?
Yes, I think so.
Kept popping in. You want to choose one, Kieran?
Yeah. Okay, let's start with this one.
Who's it from?
This is asked from. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this name. Panikos Christendal? No.
I think that was pretty good, actually.
Panikos. We're just gonna go with Panikos. Hopefully that's correct.
Yeah.
He asks, or she asks, what is my purpose in this lifetime? I want to bring joy and happiness to people. What can I do to achieve that? I feel like I am in alignment most of the time. How can I stop judging others? Because I know I don't help them by doing that or myself. So it's kind of a couple questions, but we could just go for the lifetime purpose. How about that? What is the purpose in this lifetime? What is my purpose?
Okay, I'll bring Ananda through.
Okay.
We're with you again, dear ones. We say welcome to all of you around the world. We are very, very happy to be participating in this group consciousness evolution. That is what is happening right now. You are all connected to us. You are all connected to each other. And as you take this information in, you are also taking in a frequency. You are also taking in a vibration, as we are working with all of you as a group. And this is why this kind of meeting is so important, because you access frequencies that are collective, you access concepts that are collective, and you do not know it, but you are doing that all of the time. And this is where it is very important to understand that you not only are a frequency emitter, but you are a frequency picker-upper. You are going to tune in to frequencies that are holding your attention. We will get to the question, do not worry. You are going to tune into frequencies that you are holding the attention of. So once again, at the beginning of this, we want you to understand that every time you tune into a frequency, through your televisions, through your computers, through conversation, each one of those is a frequency tuning device, and you are going to then be immersed in that frequency. So when you tune into an experience such as this, you are up in the frequency of truth and love and joy and eager anticipation and education. These are nice frequencies to tune into. But when you tune into things like gossip or war movies or the news or pornography, then you are tuning into low frequencies, and these have attachments to them. So we want you to understand what is actually happening here and now as you tune into this frequency. You are setting a tone for this timeline that you are engaged with us. And this frequency will last for a little while if you maintain the focus on love, education, freedom, joy, truth. But if you turn this session off and then go back into a mind that is focused on fear, that is focused on judgment, you are going then down into that frequency, and you are going to then begin to attract to you those things of like frequency. So we want you to know that during this broadcast you are setting a high frequency, and in that timeline you are going to attract to you things of higher frequency. So watch your judgments, watch your fears as you listen to this frequency. Keep your mind open, keep the judgmental voice at bay, and all you have to do that is to stop paying attention to it. Focus your mind. Your mind is the creative device that you have been given to master this world. And this is the most important thing in answering your question, dear one. Your purpose is hidden inside of your guidance system. So you have a purpose that is particularly designed for you. Before your incarnation, the aspect of consciousness that was going to come in as your personality, in concert with other guides and teachers of higher consciousness, designed structure, we would say, a blueprint for your life. Now, this blueprint is not solid in the sense that it is rigid, that you have no input to it. You have input. You are free to completely ignore your blueprint if you wish and suffer the consequences. And that is what a lot of you are doing, because you have been trained out of listening to your inner guidance, which are your feelings, which is your natural self. So each one of you has a personality type, let us say. Some of you are quite introverted and some of you are quite extrovert. Some of you are quite athletic, some of you are more studious. For many of you in Western society, you are in a constant state of judgment, believing that you should be other than what you are, because that is the programming, the conditioning that you receive in your society, that you are meant to conform to a particular mold, let us say. But this is not how creation works. This is not how the divine works. Look around you and look at the diversity of flowers. Look at the diversity of trees. Look at the diversity of insects and flowers and all of these sorts of things. There is an infinite variety of everything, even though they may be the same species. They are not trying to be like the other. A rose is not trying to be like a lily. An oak tree is not trying to be like a maple tree. A thundercloud is not trying to be like a clear blue sky. And this is the conditioning that you are subject to in your society. And so those of you who are quiet and introverted may feel guilty or shameful that you are not out there being the life of the party. And those of you that are active and enjoy the physical world, perhaps you are a marathon runner or an athlete of some kind, you may be judging people who are different than you, and this is where many of you are falling into a great deal of suffering because of the lack of acceptance of variety through which creation expresses itself in human form because of the indoctrinations of your society. So your purpose right now is to begin to eliminate the things in your mind that are not in alignment with truth. This is the difficult part for you because most of you believe what is in your mind because you have not been taught how mind works and you have not been taught how your guidance system works. So we get back to your blueprint, which is being expressed through your inner guidance, which means the things you like, the things you are not interested in. Don't try and become interested in things that you are not interested in because society says you should be. This is a good example where there are many people who feel like watching the news makes them intelligent or well-informed in some way, and when they go to turn it off because the frequency does not feel good, a voice in their head says, well, if you don't know what is going on, then you're going to be out of the loop, you are going to be stupid, or you're going to be in a precarious situation. And this is not so. Your guidance system is saying, don't watch the news. It is violent and aggressive programming, keeping you in the warmongering mode. Your guidance system is saying, go for a walk and look at that beautiful sunset instead of watching war. So this is your purpose right now. Your purpose is to focus on getting into alignment with what feels good for you. And we are going to add here in a postscript that does not involve drugs and alcohol, television and food. These are systems that your society has programmed you to use to feel better. So when we say we want you to feel better, we want you to feel better using the natural world. That means anything that arises from within your own inspiration, the idea to draw, the idea to phone somebody, the idea to go for a walk, and anything that occurs in the natural world. That means anything in nature, swimming, taking photographs of pine cones. It matters not, but whatever is arising within your mind that intrigues you, that has a positive vibration to it, this is your guidance system speaking to you. Now, in your Western society, you are told that you must have, your purpose must be your career, and this is not so. You can make your purpose appreciating and tuning into your inner world as you work at a job that you do not think is your purpose. Your spiritual practice can, in fact, be used at your work to raise your vibration into a frequency that is going to attract to you work that is more in alignment with your path. But if you are out of accord with yourself, if you are constantly judging who you are, what you look like, the shape of your body, your bank account, people around you, then you are in a low frequency environment, and your work, for example, because a lot of you are concerned about purpose as work, is going to remain in a low frequency place. So the first thing, if you want to change your work as your purpose, which a lot of you do, you would like to work at something you feel passionately about, then begin to raise your frequency in the job that you have now. Because as you raise your frequency, that means that you are going to tune into inspirations and ideas that are more in alignment with your natural self. How do you know that? So if you begin to feel better, then you are more in alignment with your natural self. You are relinquishing judgment as your friend. And as we end this answer, we want you to know that judgment is not your friend. You are taught to be judgmental by your conditioning. You are taught to be judgmental by your cultural and religious structures, and that is where your biggest issue lies. You are going to have to understand that judgment unplugs you from the communications from spirit, because spirit is always accepting of everybody, because you are all equal, you are all divine, and you are all aspects of God mind expressing itself. So when you hate on another person, you are in fact attacking God, and that is why you feel bad. Spirit will not participate in that recreation. So to find your purpose, learn to let go of judgment. And how do you do that? Those of you that are Course in Miracles students know how to do that. You start the lessons of A Course in Miracles and you train your mind. But for those of you that are reluctant to start those lessons, those of you that have resistance to starting lessons, you must discipline your mind to not tell judgmental stories. As soon as you catch yourself judging somebody, pull your mind back, focus on your breathing, focus on a beautiful tree, focus on something that you love, something that you appreciate, and do not indulge in the stories in the mind of judgment and hatred. This is where you lose a lot of your energy, and this is where you are constantly undermining your spiritual path and your spiritual evolution. It is a training program, however, that is required. You can lead your own training program, but the untrained mind, the disordered mind, cannot heal itself because it does not think there is anything wrong with itself. It believes in what it believes in, it values what it values, and so you must have an outside influence to assist it. That is, of course, what we are doing here. But once this broadcast goes, then you are left with your own mind, and you must begin to discipline it as a way to access your life's purpose. But right now, your life's purpose is to get to a state of peace through the relinquishment of judgment, and that is our answer, dear ones. That is our answer. All right.
Rod, as always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to with stuff like that. Like as far as the purpose goes, I mean, I'm 20 and I'll be 21 in July, so that's obviously a question that comes up for someone my age a lot. Is like, what are you doing? Are you going to school? What's your plans? And for me, as far as like the purpose, I've come to realize that for me it's not necessarily yet, I don't know for sure, but it's not necessarily a specific thing. Like, I don't know if I want to be a engineer or something like that, but for me, my purpose is to feel a certain way. And whatever that looks like in the physical sense almost isn't as important as the feeling of the purpose that I want, which is to always feel good. And I think that's what they talk about, and about like releasing judgment and stuff. It's your purpose is to feel good, and whatever physical manifestation that means for you will come up when you get the feeling right first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always follow my feelings. That's being a Pisces, I can't help doing anything else.
Yeah, Pisces are dragged around by their feelings.
Yeah.
I'm a Sagittarius, and I was having none of that feeling business. And that was, I honestly believe that's really why I got so far off track, apart from the fact that I was raised in British society, which of course does not support you following your feelings and expressing your feelings in any way, shape, or form. So I've always jokingly said my life's purpose is to overcome my Englishness. No offense, English people, you know what I mean. So I think, honestly, you know, I had a very, very difficult time when I was your age, Kieran. I was in the depths of, you know, suicidal thoughts and terrible, terrible suffering mentally. And I remembered when I was young just cursing my feelings because I had never been told what they meant. They were very powerful. I didn't understand them. Nobody ever talked about them. In fact, if you ever, you know, if a feeling ever came up, it was just, oh, quickly sweep it under the rug, you know. And obviously, I was completely out of alignment with myself, this purpose that I had. You know, and I think that's where a lot of people are after having gone through the education system, and you know, parents with the best of intentions constantly asking young teenagers, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, what are they going to be? What are they going to do? Rather than how happy are they? How do they feel? You know, and that's just conditioning. Our society has taught people to do that. But I think this is one of the biggest issues for all of us who've been really heavily conditioned in this society, is to honor that feeling that says, no, I actually don't want to go and visit that person and have dinner with them. It doesn't feel right to me, even though socially we're trained to perhaps go to an event or whatever.
Yeah.
I know I have upset a lot of people over this last 10 years in not conforming to social conditioning, but I know that it's had a very big impact in my ability to tune into this material, because I'm not constantly going against my feelings. But I think I learned that because I went against my feelings as a young person, and it got me into a lot of trouble. So I've had a very tough lesson in that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that segue is good into, I've seen a few questions about children and raising children in today's society, and what we can do to help young people come into their fullest and not damage them.
Okay.
I think
that's a good one.
Good question.
Yeah.
I'll bring Ananda through again. Oh, we're with you again, dear ones. This is the most important topic, because those of you that have struggled with your lives, all of you, most of this has come from the education that you've had. And it is very difficult for those of you that have been deeply indoctrinated for decades to believe that a good education is the best thing for your children, to begin to entertain the idea that perhaps this is a belief that is being fed to you to keep you on the treadmill of working for, we will say, working for the man. Your purpose is to express your unique self. Each one of you comes, as we had said in the previous answer, each one of you comes with a personality, preferences, passions, joys that are uniquely yours, and they are coming from inspiration is coming from spirit. And as parents, this is the most important thing for you to know. You are going to have two streams of information coming through your thoughts about how to parent. And half of that, or more than half of that, is going to be conditioned teachings from your parents, from your society, and from the marketing programs that you have watched and have bought into. The food systems, for example, that you have been indoctrinated into. Many of you are eating food that you have been conditioned to believe is good for you, when in actual fact it was just a convenient food for food industries to market. And so they sold you on a particular product because it was easy to mass produce and make a lot of money on. And they introduced it into your school systems. That lovely food designation poster that many of you grew up on was feeding you wrong information about what was good food and how to balance it. But these are programs that are still running in your mind. So some of you are going to encounter yourselves treating your children in a way that you at times will be horrified that you are doing. You are loving, you are kind, you want the best for them, and suddenly you will turn into your parent. This has happened to most parents. And that is because you do not realize how the mind works. And this is the important part of this teaching, is you must understand that all of your behaviors are generated from your thoughts. That is how you are motivated. Where do your thoughts come from? They come from your beliefs. For most of you in the Western world, your beliefs have been indoctrinated into you repeatedly and at times brutally, and your behavior, therefore, is arising from those beliefs. However, you have another stream of information coming directly from spirit through your feeling self, and this is where we want you to begin to focus as you are raising your children. And it is very difficult for you to honor your children's feelings and desires and inspirations when you are not valuing your own. You cannot give to somebody what you have not given to yourself. And so before you really start trying to implement spiritual practices with your children in any major way, we want you to begin to do it with yourself. That means we want you to begin to honor yourself and begin to listen to that small voice within you. Now, for a lot of you who have been conditioned heavily in your society, this is an overwhelming prospect, because you know that you have structured lives that really are not what you want. They have been what you've been taught to do. You may have a job that is taking a lot of your time. You may have a mortgage that is taking a lot of your money, a lot of payments going out into the world. And it seems impossible. The juggernaut has a lot of momentum behind it. But we want you to know, this is why the book is called A Course in Miracles, because as you begin to shift yourself to align with how you feel, even in the smallest ways, then you are going to begin to see things shifting out in the world, because you are the projector, you are the creator. This is not an objective world that is happening to you. It is your creation. And this is why it is so important for you to understand as parents that you must stop the violent input into your children. You are seeing out in the world the violence that has been put into the collective minds of your society. You are watching shows about murder all the time. Yes, they are in the guise of great investigative medical shows or detective shows, but the subject is murder. The subject is deception. The subject is dark, and it is across the board. Just look at the shows that are front and center in your televisions. Now, a lot of you who are spiritual, we will say, you are all spiritual, you are all on a spiritual path. Some of you just know you are, some do not. You must look and see that even in spiritual lives, people are watching the news, or people are watching these shows based on murder, and it is very, very important for you to understand that these are the seeds of violence that are being intentionally planted in your mind, because your society as a whole thrives on war, and the systems that are in charge of your society want war to continue. They are not interested in peace. They are manufacturing arms, they are trading arms, they are manipulating the money system. There are many, many things going on here, and they require your minds to be focused in a low frequency so that they can continue, because they understand the laws of creation. There are many, many beings in places of power in your society who understand these principles, and they have intentionally kept these principles out of your education system so that you don't know. Now, this sounds like a conspiracy theorist speaking, but we want to tell you here that it is so. The ridicule that has been laid upon conspiracy theorists is coming from the system, and it is part of this system that you must learn to overcome here. And one of the greatest parts of this system that it has taught to you is this fear of ridicule, this fear of standing out in the crowd. That is why your classes are regimented, why you are in rows, and many, many things that have led to your fear of being seen. But you must become willing to be who you are. You must become willing to understand that when you feel bad, you are out of alignment. And when you have children, you must understand that you are a great influence on them, and you must begin to wield that parental influence with love and with a firm but loving and kind hand. Yes, they want their devices. Yes, they want to watch those shows. Yes, they want to have violent video games. But you must, as the wiser one, temporarily, you must say to them, we are not going to do that. And you will explain to them why. You are going to sit down and you are going to tell them about frequency. You are going to tell them about how you are the creator of your experience. And if you are playing violent video games for hours on end, you are adding to the war in the world. So you must have some tough discussions with your children. But the children that are on the planet at this time knew they were coming into a revolutionary, transformative society. They came knowing what was going to happen, so they are going to be open to this. But you must begin to unplug them from violence first, because most of the poor behavior that parents deal with is coming from children who have watched violent shows telling them in the guise of teddy bears and monsters that to overcome something you must fight it, you must hit it, you must kill it. And that is where they're, what we will say, bad behavior. We use bad, qualified bad. It is not bad, it is conditioned. If they grow up in a loving, expressive, kind and compassionate world, that is what they are going to be conditioned to do. And so as parents, you must look at what you are doing, what you are allowing in your home that is violent or aggressive, and you must begin to shift it. But as we close this question, we want to say, do it gently and slowly, because you have indoctrinated them gently and slowly. It has crept in. As they got older, you allowed them to see more and more violence, more and more things such as this, and you are going to need to bring it back slowly so that their minds do not become too disrupted or too upset. Just as you do not want to give up your favorite things, they do not want to give up theirs, but their favorite things often are not good for them. So that is where we would guide your focus right now as parents, is to become more in alignment with yourself, remove the violence and hatred from your own life in whatever ways you can, and allow that to begin to percolate up through your world, because you are the creator, and as you choose love, as you choose to step away from those things, then it is going to be reflected back to you in your children's behavior. Miracles indeed will happen.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think you should talk about your video watching, Kieran.
Pardon?
The battle I had with your videos as kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, we had a non-video game and violent movie-free household until we were at least 7 or 8 years old. And it was a battle for you more than us, I think, because we wanted it.
I did the best I could for as long as I could.
Yeah, and you always tell the story of my older brother Alex. What was the show he was watching? Power Rangers, I think.
Oh yeah, Power Rangers. Yeah.
And anyone who knows the show knows it's a funny show, but it's all about superheroes fighting bad guys and all that stuff. And I think Alex had just finished watching an episode of Power Rangers, and at the time, Tina was an avid gardener with all her beautiful flowers outside of our house. And she turned away from Alex for a minute, and when she went back to the garden, he was standing amongst the field of destroyed flowers, stick in hand, pretending to be a Power Ranger.
That's right.
That was it. No more games. No more violent shows.
It's very interesting. I've had my own experience with what started it for me was actually commercial. I started feeling really terrible watching commercial, kind of just like it was just too much for me. And I started just switching off commercials. That was like the start for me to actually understand that there was something strange here. And then eventually movies started to bother me. And then I'm starting to discern about, okay, which movies actually are good or bad. You know, some movies are actually, it's almost like they're taking you down in frequency to take you up again to where you were when you started.
Yeah.
But there are some movies that actually take you higher, which is what I allow in still.
Yeah. So what Ananda
Yeah,
said was basically, what Ananda said is basically, you know, we are designed, our guidance system is designed to function at the frequency of love. But we're conditioned into a much lower frequency through our societal conditioning, and so we sort of have these mixed, you know, we have this mixed message inside of our thoughts. We've got the ego mind, which believes in separation and has been fed a lot in our society, and that's why people like watching violence. It's in alignment with fear and separation, and that's really where we've been trained. So things like The Walking Dead and these sort of horrific zombie shows and stuff are really appealing to that fearful, separated aspect of ourselves, which we have here. And then our guidance system is actually in attune with love. Our heart, our feeling self, is actually in attunement with love. So anything that is unloving starts to feel uncomfortable. The more in alignment with love you are, and I think that's what's happening with you, Ken, with that. As you become more in alignment, the things that are out of alignment become intolerable. And I think that's what I've seen too. You know, like I stopped watching TV about 10 years ago, and I know that it had a lot to do with my this channeling thing that has happened to me. I watched a friend she was hooked into one of the wars that was being televised, and I watched her go into a really severe depression. The more she watched it, the worse she got, and that was really my, you know, indicator that this was not. But what was really interesting is that they were hooking people in through the stories about people. So they were hooking people into the war by telling compassionate stories, and these stories about wonderful soldiers who, you know, were facing all these challenges. But I think that's kind of what they're saying, is the frequency of it was violence, and even these, you know, detective shows or things like, you know, CSI, their focus is murder. The story is about the characters, but the underlying frequency is violence, and I don't watch it anymore. And this is kind of a funny story. One of my first fights with Ananda, because they came through 3.5 years ago, and in those first month or two, they started to kind of boss me around quite a bit, telling me what to eat, and if I was watching something on television or on the computer that they didn't like, they'd start to interfere and tell me that I shouldn't be watching it. And then they told me I couldn't watch my favorite show, which was the only show I watched, and of course it was Dexter, about a serial killer. You know, like, this is what we think of, and when you think about it, this character Dexter is, you know, he's the hero of the movie. He's the good guy. And he's a serial killer, and they were adamant I could not watch the show. And so I had a big fight with them. I didn't talk to them for 3 days, and I ate chips and drank wine, which were my drugs of choice at the time. And I actually went on a Dexter watching binge just to prove to them that I could do it. But that was the old Tina. That, you know, I've softened a lot, and I'm much better at doing as I'm told. But so I understand.
And I don't think it's about switching it all off at once as well. Like, I still play video games occasionally and watch movies and stuff, but it's definitely been a process of weaning out a large majority of a lot of the stuff I used to watch and play. And like, I cannot watch programmed television anymore. And like Ken said, like, the commercials, just, I cannot stand them. I almost get a headache when I'm watching them.
Yeah.
It's just like obvious how intensely they're trying to program you.
Mm.
But I think to be gentle with yourself when you're doing it, like Ananda always says, whenever you're trying to switch any pattern in your life, be it with food or entertainment or thought patterns, whatever, it's always to take it slow with yourself and do one thing at a time, never too quickly, but to, at the same time, do it, and to slowly start discerning what feels good, what doesn't, what's in alignment with the experiences that you want.
Mm. I still kind of go back again a little bit once in a while just to check. Was I delusional back then? And then I watched the Star Trek, no, Star Wars, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I started like, what the hell is this? I mean, what? So I mean, it just proves to me again that, oh yeah, it was right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the truth of the matter is, and I think what they said at the end there is kind of what we have to kind of look at is, the violence out in the world is a reflection of the program violence that we have all consumed and think about, and we don't think of ourselves as violent. But I know that when I started A Course in Miracles lessons and I went into my mind, I was having some pretty aggressive fights with people in my head. Stories and fictitious arguments and things like that, and we don't think of those as violent or aggressive because we've been taught that thoughts aren't creative, but they are, and they set a frequency. And I think that's what it, to bring it back to the questions, like the parenting questions, is it's not harmless to let your kids watch these shows. They are programmed to teach them that you need to kill your enemies. And that's what we're seeing out in the world, is that program manifested, and we're all doing it. That's the thing. We've been taught that we're innocent, and that's also one part of the Course teaching that's really interesting, this idea that we put on the face of innocence and say we have nothing to do with this, and yet we have aggressive and judgmental thoughts in our minds all the time. But because we don't know how creation works, we don't know that those are manifesting out in the world.
Yeah.
And so it seems an extreme program, but what I was out for a walk this morning just before we did this, and what I realized is that I'm in my ordinary state of consciousness at peace most of the time because of the practice, and it's been a very diligent practice for sure. But my mind did not used to be peaceful, and it was no fun living in that mind. And the life I had living in that mind was no fun. The life I have cultivated as a result of this internal work is completely different than the life I used to live. And it's much nicer. And I think for those of you that are in the early stages of A Course in Miracles lessons, you can't see where this is going to take you, but it's going to take you into a state of peace that then allows all of the war and disruption in your own personal life to fade away. But also, each of us, we're creating the world out there, and I believe we are. We're doing this for everyone. So it can kind of look like a self-indulgent or completely internal process, but we're doing it for everyone on the planet. Those Syrian refugees that are struggling, people who are being bombed out of their homes. The more peace we bring into our own mind, we literally are helping them in the most powerful way. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll bring up another question here. This one's in reference to the Course. The Course is worded in a difficult way. I'm reading it, but it's hard to absorb. I understand the concepts from other teachings, but will this get easier? It will.
You can answer a bit of that, Kieran.
Yeah, the Course definitely is worded very intensely. Anyone who's reading it knows that it's written in Judeo-Christian language, and it can be really hard to absorb. I've read the text several times now, but I remember the first time going through it, it was really hard for me to absorb. Like, I could maybe finish one of the little headings in a chapter, if that, maybe only a couple paragraphs at a time. But as I've gone on to study it more, and having read it a couple times and done the lessons and stuff, I can read it just reading the book now because I'm used to the language, I'm used to how Jesus talks in it. And yeah, it does get easy. But first of all, you do have to apply a lot of focus while you're reading it. It has to be the only thing you're doing at that time.
Mm.
And I think that's, I mean, my experience of it was that when I picked the book up and I knew straight away something was happening, I didn't understand what I was reading. I would think, and I'm a very good reader, have a good comprehension, and I'd never picked up a book before that I couldn't really get. But whatever was drawn it was more powerful than my lack of understanding of it. I think over the 10 to 12 years that I studied the course, the book, I think I read it about 20 times altogether. I would just read it and then go back to the beginning and read it and go back to the beginning. It was my spiritual practice every day for 12 years, 2 hours a day I would read it. Mm. And I know that that's kind of what has precipitated this channeling. But one of the things, I'll actually let Jesus answer this question. I'll give you a little, just my own personal take on it. But we have to discipline our minds, and our minds are undisciplined, and that is what the Course insists that you do. You cannot spend time with that book and do it half-assed. You can't. You've got to bring all of your concentration to bear on even one sentence at a time sometimes, and I really do believe that that is part of the training program, that you have to focus the mind. The mind is the creator of the universe, and it's running wild, and it's a dangerous thing when it's untrained. They did mention the language too, that it brings up all of our issues about God. It brings up all of our issues around religion. It brings up for women. It brings up all of their issues with men because of the masculine language. And what that does is it allows us to see where we have resentments and where we have things to forgive. So there's a lot of anger, I think, contained in women about what has been apparently perpetrated on women over the years through the church and the patriarchy. And that anger comes up when you constantly hear the he and the, you know, all of the masculine pronouns. And ironically enough, that's our forgiveness work. We can't be angry as women. We can't be angry with half the world. We can't resent half the world. They haven't done anything to us. It was done in the past. A lot of us have had negative experiences, but those too have to be forgiven. And so I think that's part of what's going on there with the language. But I will bring, I'll bring Jesus through. He wrote it, so I'm sure he knows why he wrote it that way. So I'll see you in a bit. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and this conversation, this ongoing conversation is your salvation. You must understand that you are lost in a world of thought. You must understand that you are lost in a world of judgment, and you are lost in a world of war. And it looks like it is happening out there, but it is literally happening within your own consciousness. The words of A Course in Miracles are very carefully selected to bring forth all of the darkness from within your own mind. This is what its purpose is to bring forth all of the darkness that you are unaware of. This is the nature of the separated and split mind. It believes it is good, it believes that it is wholesome, it believes that it is on the right path, and yet there is no peace, and yet there are these hateful thoughts and ideas that swarm in the mind. And these are being generated from deep within the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind. You have a great fear and guilt contained within your consciousness, because you have literally separated yourself from God by choice. That is what this world is. You have come from unity, from love, from oneness, and you have decided that you want to live your life the way you want to live it, and that is your right. You are allowed to do that. But what you do not understand is the structure of the mind, and that book is designed to bring to the surface the deep underlying structures of the mind that are working against you here. You have the right to come into separation and to create and experience whatever you choose. This is your ability. You have been given the same abilities as God in that sense: creativity, tremendous power. But you have lost touch with the truth of your nature, which is love, and that is why you are all suffering so much, and that is what I came to teach so many years ago on the physical earth plane. I went through my own journey of awakening that you are going through now. I went from being an ordinary consciousness, although I was assisted greatly by spirit. I had conscious contact with spirit from the time I was very, very young. And my assignment was to bring certain teachings through, as it is still. The assignment has never changed for me, and I have done this work forever since that particular incarnation. There were many incarnations before that. You must remember that I am not different than you in that sense. You all have a multitude of opportunities to learn, and you have a multitude of opportunities to express yourself, and that is your right and that is your ability. But when you are expressing something that you don't want to experience, you are shooting yourself in the foot, is the phrase you have. And that is what this book is designed to do. Through that particular language, which is timeless, you will notice that language changes a lot over time. This language is classic in that sense. It is not going to shift over the next 100 years or so. This book is going to be used over and over again in the next centuries to bring peace on Earth, bring peace to Earth and to your collective consciousness. The language is designed to repeat and repeat and repeat. There is a grand spiral of teaching that goes from the beginning to the end, and as you go round and around in different forms of the same message but in different language, different sentence structure, you get, yes, you get indoctrinated into the new belief system. But your ego's belief system is an entire system. This thought system is an entire thought system. That means that when you study this material, you must focus on it, and that is why it is difficult. You must focus on it, and it is made so that you must focus on it. What does the ego's world do? And that is the world that you are living in right now. It is an egoic consciousness fed with fear and anger and judgment and consumerism and materialism. So that you keep away from the innate wisdom that you have. And why do they keep repeating commercials? Why do television shows have commercials every few minutes? Because that is what it takes to distract the most powerful divine mind, that is you. We are asking you to focus that powerful divine mind on love. That is the only solution to your problems on this planet. It is separation taken to a very extreme degree. It is materialism and consumerism, two sides of the same coin, taken to an extreme degree. And you are seeing the destruction and the dissatisfaction and the war that is being generated from those beliefs. You cannot participate in the world's game and change it. You must step out of the world's game into spirit, into this transformation of mind program, because the world is being generated from your mind. That is why these television programs and the education system looks the way it does. It does not teach you about your innate power. It does not teach you about your feelings and emotions. These are the generative forces behind creation. The mind focused with energy, and that is what your newscasts and your entertainments are doing. They are focusing your fear-based mind with violence, and they are using that emotion and that focus to maintain their stranglehold on your uniqueness, your creativity, and your self-expression and your purpose. That is why many of you are coming to this teaching, because you are unhappy. You have the car you wanted, you have the house, you have these things, and yet you are still very, very unhappy because you have been lied to. You have been sold a bill of goods that if you buy, you will be happy. Unfortunately, in your society, what you are taught to buy are very expensive things, like homes with 30 and 40-year mortgages. And you do not know until you have come to the end of the 30 or 40 years that owning that home does not make you happy. And it is too late then. We are telling you now that you must begin to shift your consciousness now away from the material. This does not mean you are going to be homeless. This does not mean that you are going to be destitute in your old age, which is the lie that you have been told. On the contrary, to train your mind to focus on truth, to bring your mind and emotions in alignment with love, is going to bring you more abundance than you can imagine. Because that is where abundance comes from. You are being trained in scarcity and fear, and that is why you do not feel good. So these words are going to seem strange to you. The language is going to seem strange to you because you have been raised in a society ruled by the ego mind. You have been raised in an education system and a cultural, religious system that is constantly teaching you things that are untrue and demonizing things that you need to be happy. Things like your feelings, you have been taught to override them, that they are unreliable, that they are frivolous. You must use your intellect all the time. You can't listen to your feelings, and that is what the consumer and corporate world is counting on, that the employees and that the people who are purchasing their products will not care that the people making the products are dying making those products or are desperate making those products. You have been taught to go with your intellect because that allows the ego system to function, and you must, at this stage of your spiritual evolution, understand that the intellect and the judgment that you have been taught is valuable is in fact what is causing a lot of these problems. You must get back to the heart, you must get back to love, you must get back to feeling, you must get back to creativity. And so the language is taking you out of the familiar into the unfamiliar, because in your society the familiar is lies, and you will feel as if the truth is a lie. When you have believed that lies are true, you will think that the truth is a lie, and that is why this book is so hard for you, because you are being taught the opposite of what you have been taught your entire life. But look at the world, look at your life, look at your health, look at your happiness. How is it going for you believing in that system? These are the questions that you must ask yourself. You must look at creation. You must look at what is generating what you are seeing in the world and in your bodies and in your families and in your relationships. And if you are thriving, then you are doing okay for you. But there is another aspect of your mind that is manifesting. The unconscious aspect of your mind is manifesting out in the world as these devastating systems and results that are being shown to you. You are coming to the end of your ability to live in the ego consciousness. There have been many societies before you that have done what you have done. They have taken and taken and expanded and taken, and they have not survived, because nothing that is built on taking, only taking, will survive. The only things that last forever are built on love. And if you want your society to heal itself, if you want your body to heal itself, if you want your life to heal itself, you must begin to align yourself with love, because that is what creates and that is what keeps things going. If you are more loving to yourself, your body is going to thrive. If you are more loving to your neighbors and your children, your community is going to thrive. And if you are more loving to your enemies, the world is going to thrive. That is why the words are difficult, because you are not used to the truth, and the truth is hard for you to hear because you have been conditioned to listen to lies. But use the discipline that you have. You have been trained so much, dear ones. You have been put through a training system that is beyond your ability to really comprehend. And to say that you cannot manage this course is a lie. To say that you cannot be taught is a lie. To say that you cannot change is a lie. You have been changed. You have been taught. You have been indoctrinated so deeply that you cannot even see it. And that is why this book is hard. Because you are going against the cultural indoctrination that has been systematically implemented and used to get you where you are now as a society and as an individual. We will return at another time. Whoa.
Feisty one.
Oh, Jesus.
I always enjoy, they always answer the question, but they never only answer just that question. It's always a lot more.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I know, I've had a lot of people, you know, looking for translations of the course and why is it so difficult, and I'm a real purist just because of the experience I've had of changing my mind through mastering that book. And I think, you know, looking for an easy way out, looking for a translation, looking for someone who's writing about the course but not doing the course is exactly what he said. I think it's our discomfort with the language, it's our discomfort with the discipline. And the only thing I have gained from doing that disciplined work is freedom, ironically enough. And I think that's the paradox of the journey, is that with the Course in Miracles lessons and reading the book, you actually find real freedom. We seem to have freedom. We can choose whatever we want. I mean, right now I can go for a coffee or a burger or a walk or whatever I want to do, I can do. But those are the small freedoms. I think really we're looking for the big freedom. You know, we're really looking to create intentionally and to get freedom of mind, because it doesn't matter what you do with your body. If you're going for a walk along a beautiful beach, but you're resenting someone while you're doing it, you don't have freedom. You know, that beach becomes invisible to you because you're just obsessed with those hateful thoughts or whatever.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times in our society, just via the way we've been raised and through the school system and stuff, we have a big association with discipline and imprisonment, where we feel like if we have to dedicate a certain amount of time to practicing this discipline and doing what it asks you to do, how it asks you to do it, that it's going to imprison you and tighten your life, when actually it does the exact opposite. It frees your mind over a period of time to really give you the freedom to choose whatever you want, and just like you say, to be at peace with everything while you're doing it, so you can enjoy the beach while you're there. And you can be present with the things in your life as they're happening, instead of always being off in your mind, thinking about other stuff, fighting with someone in your head, worried about what you have to do tomorrow, or feeling guilty about what you did yesterday.
Yes.
And
That
is the true freedom that it offers you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm wondering a little bit about, because the way I'm using so I haven't finished the course. I'm kind of, you know, right in the early stages of the course. But I guess what I'm kind of taking it a little bit how I feel as well, which is kind of, I don't do it every day, but I do it whenever I feel I can, to kind of fit it in and stuff. And of course, if I would be really honest with myself, I probably should do it more. But yeah,
well,
I guess you have
honestly,
to.
If someone said
life
that they
kind of force you down on a terrible stream for you to kind of really just, okay, right, now I'm gonna just, you know, is this or you know, the highway. But it's not like that for many people, probably.
Yeah, and honestly, if someone actually completed the workbook, all 365 lessons, in a year exactly, I would be very impressed. It took me longer. It probably took me closer to a year and a half, leaning towards 2 years to finish all the lessons, because there would be times where either I didn't feel like I finished the lesson completely, so I would redo it for a couple days, or there would be stints where 4, 5, 6 days a week would go by where I didn't do a lesson, and and he mentions that in the introduction for the workbook. The only thing he says is that you cannot do more than one lesson a day, but he doesn't say that you can't take more time with it. But we do have to watch our excuses, and are we saying that we can't do it when we can? Are we giving all the effort that we could put into it, or are we saying that it's too much for us to do? Those are things to watch.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and sometimes it might be resistance. But I'm also getting drawn to a lot of spiritual materials. And I feel that there's lots of very, very good materials out there. And
there are.
That's a little bit. I mean, right now on my bedside, I have like 8 books. Which should I choose now? And it's all spiritual, really good stuff. So
and of course, I have been lucky with my situation, because in the early days of me doing the course, I was living with my mom, and we would do channelings almost every night. And it helps a lot to have the author there talking with you about it.
Yeah.
About
halfway through the lessons, there's a point where he says at the beginning of the chapter, he says, you may have noticed that you can go for days and not know what you've been thinking about, and it really is a normal state of being for all of us. I know that the way that I had my relationship with the course was exceptional, because I was apparently destined to do this job. And so they were influencing me to focus. I mean, I literally didn't read anything else for 4 years. The first 4 years that I had the course in my hands, I was the weird woman at the coffee shop who had that big blue book with her all the time. I did not do anything. I had no interest in the world, but I had never really had any interest in the world. I mean, I think that's how I know that I was meant to do this work, because that's really what they're teaching. Not the ironic thing is that when you begin to stop looking to the world to make you happy and start training your mind to make you happy, the things that you actually want in the world begin to show up, because your frequency is in that higher place. And I think that's what I would say to anyone who's resisting the course, is that your intense training to be in the world, which is how we've been raised, is playing out. And it takes a lot of discipline to step out of that action, constantly looking outside for the solutions. Because even in reading, and I was thinking about this as I was walking this morning, even in reading a book, in that moment you're going to another consciousness to feel better. What the course is teaching you to do is to feel better within your own consciousness. And you're doing it, you're the disciplinarian, you're the one who's focusing the mind, and literally nobody else can do that for you. And until you do it, you get to live in the unfocused, disrupted mind. And it seems oppressive, but there's no way out of doing it yourself. And that was, Mary Magdalene started channeling this week. She's telling her side of the story, the great love story in the new book I'm channeling. And that's really her message in the book, is they studied and worked hard, and Jesus studied and worked hard in his life. And that's why his enlightenment came, and that's why he became able to do what he did, because he had pursued forgiveness and love his whole life relentlessly, and had these miraculous consequences. But it didn't happen to them accidentally, and she was even talking about their love affair and their relationship. And she said it was wonderful because they dedicated their life to the practice of forgiveness and love. That was what they were doing. So we have to understand that we get We get the results of what we're focusing on, and it's just that simple. It's our choice. We get to choose. Are we focusing on love, or are we busy all the time? And we are trained to be busy all the time, and we get approval from society for being busy all the time. One of the great gifts of going and living on Salt Spring Island, where I studied the Course in Miracles, was that it's a very, very quiet rural place, and there's a lot of isolated little cabins. I was living in one of those, many of those actually, and I couldn't just distract myself all the time. And I know that if I had been living somewhere where there were movies and restaurants and all of those things, I think it would have been very difficult. And I think that's part of this journey, is to find a way to retreat, to give yourself the opportunity to have that time. You know, we all have 24 hours a day. I remember someone saying this to me once. She had a beautiful garden, and I said, "Oh, wow, you have a beautiful garden. I wish I had the time to do that." She said, "I have the same hours that you do, honey." And I was like, "Yeah, you do. And you choosing to make a garden. You know, what are we choosing to use our time for? We are all doing the same. We've all got 24 hours a day. We all, you know, so we have to accept responsibility for where our focus is."
Yeah, definitely. That's been a big part of my practice the last little while here, is just watching myself while I'm doing things and making sure I'm asking myself while I'm doing them, is this constructive towards the life and the feelings that I want to have? Is what I'm doing right now adding towards where I want to be and who I want to be, or is it out of alignment with that? And it takes a lot of focus to watch yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're keeping an eye on what it is you're doing, what you're thinking, what activities are you taking part in, and all those things, and asking yourself, is that constructively leading towards who and what I want to be?
I can't believe you're doing this at 20.
Yeah. Should we go to another question?
Pardon? Yeah, let's get another question.
Okay. This one seems good. Hello, this is Joe, an American living and working in Poland. My mother died battling cancer. Died last year battling cancer for months. She raised 10 of us and worked hard her whole life. She was so afraid to die. Now all I see is a tombstone, the punctuation of all the energy she put into her life and ours. Can you tell us where we all go when we die? Is she happy, and does she visit us?
Aww.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Touched my heart, that one. I'm going to let Jesus answer that one.
Yeah.
I am that one that you know as Jesus, and this, of course, is the question that all beings want the answer to. Your parent is at peace. Your parent is understanding everything, and this is the greatest gift that you get as you pass over, is you begin to see the completeness of your, what we call oversoul, the many yous. There is not only one you. That being chose a challenging life because they wanted to be challenged. They wanted to see what they could accomplish. It seems at times that this is an unforgiving place. It is a place of separation. And many of your teachings lead you into suffering, deep suffering. And we want you to bring attention to this suffering that you are feeling at this moment, because you are looking at that tombstone believing that that is a nothing compared to the life that being led. How is that life valued now? What did it mean? It meant so much to that being because they got to experiences. That is what this physical incarnation is for. You have ideas and you have lies in your minds, and you come down and you get to experience them. Each one of you evolves based on the experiences you had. Now that person is going to learn that many of the things that they did were not beneficial to them. That person is going to learn that love is what you remember. That person is going to learn that societal norms and constraints are meaningless once you pass over, that it is your self-expression and your evolution that is important. And many of you, unfortunately, learn those things by not doing those things. You get to experience life without freedom. You get to experience life following other people's rules and not your own passions. You get to limit yourself because somebody might judge you, and you get to see the consequences of those untrue ideas manifested in experience. And when you pass over, you get to understand that those things were not in alignment with love, that God did not require them of you, that that was a line that was fed to you by your society, and that the next time you are going to do it differently. And that is the joy of learning through experience. It becomes viscerally incorporated into the higher mind. It becomes something that you know, not just believe. And that is what we want you to understand as you are going through this journey, that you think you know things. But we want you to know that it is your experience that is giving you the feedback. Are you enjoying it? Are you happy? Are you having fun? If you are not, but you are doing something, then you are doing something because somebody told you to do it. Somebody taught you to do it. Your guidance system is about joy, and you look at that life now and you say that was not a joyful life. But from Spirit's point of view, once you pass over into the higher realms of consciousness, once you look back on your life, and you all have a life review where you look at what you did and what you chose, you were free to choose it, and that being chose what they wanted to do. And that is what you must honor now as you look at that tombstone. Do not see that life as something that was thrust upon that being. That being made choice after choice based on their free will and what they believed to be true at that time. And you are all doing the same thing, but you must all go inside and ask yourself, and how much fun am I having? Is this really the life that I want to experience here? Where am I missing joy? Where am I doing things that I don't want to do? You do not have to die to find out the answers to these things. You have been gifted by what we would say is God. We don't like to use that word because it has become so contaminated in your society. But you are being guided by your heart every minute of every day. Every day you wake up. Are you happy to wake up and live your life, or are you horrified that you have to do one more day of this? That is God's love speaking to you, telling you that you don't have to suffer what you have been taught in this society. And this is one of the reasons that I am bringing through these teachings at this time, because a lot of these teachings are told to you as my teachings, and they are not that. I teach and taught that you have the keys to heaven within your own heart and mind, and it is in your feeling self. You have the keys to heaven within there. You have the creative mind that is making your life happen. But you must understand how the laws of creation work. When you judge another, you are going to suffer. And so for the question asker here, we want you to stop judging her life as traumatic and difficult or thankless. We want you to know that she has, he has, they have learned everything that they needed to learn to go into the next level of consciousness. You must educate yourself. It is as in your school system, as troubled as that school system is, you cannot go to university unless you complete kindergarten. You cannot go into grade 7 unless you have completed grade 6, because you will not understand the work. And the same thing applies in your incarnational history and system. You must first experience the untrue ideas in your mind and see the crops that they grow, the unhealthy or unhappy crops that they grow, so that you can make a different choice, because the mind does not really know until it experiences. The heart does not really know until it experiences. So this is why it is so important for you to think, feel, act, instead of just staying in the mind all the time. You must act in accord with love. You must speak in accord with love to experience love. That is what these teachings are here to bring you. They are here to bring you the methodology to relieve the suffering of your mind. So as you look at that tombstone, know that the suffering you feel is because you are believing something that is out of alignment with love. Know that that being has experienced, has grown, has learnt, and is now into a completely new frequency, into a completely new realm. And in their life review, they will look back and they will see where they made incorrect choices, where they perhaps chose a limitation rather than freedom, or fear of judgment rather than independence. And they will take that lesson into their next life, their next experience, and they will be closer to love. They will be closer to truth. So any of you that are lamenting the life of somebody, lamenting the limitation or the suffering that you witnessed in somebody, you are only seeing what they didn't know in that suffering, and you also, in your own suffering, in that observation, are feeling what you don't know. You don't know that everything is chosen, everything is free will, and everything works out in the end. Everything comes to a place of understanding and love and peace, and there are no judgments. The poor of you, the overworked of you, the suffering of you are loved equally in the eyes of God. You just have stepped away from that connection, and so you live in isolation and separation. That is why these teachings came through so many years ago and are coming through now. You must align yourself with love to feel love. You must step back from judgment to have peace. These are the two things that we would ask you to take away from this lesson today. Step away from judgment. It is not your friend. And when you feel at peace, you are in alignment with what you are meant to be doing in this moment. It is not going to look like the rest of the world. It is not going to look like what you have been taught is right. But when you are at peace, you are in a frequency where spirit can connect with you and your inner guidance can communicate with you clearly. So know that that is a very, very efficient place to be. When you are always busy, always doing, always acting, you are not listening. You are running with the bit in your teeth, so to speak, on your agenda. And that is the agenda of all of the untruths in your mind. You must remember this, and that is what many of you do. You go through your life doing what you want and suffering and blaming somebody else for it. The truth of the matter is, if you quiet your mind, learn to align with love, you are going to do that which your higher self has assigned for you, and that is your life's purpose, and that is contained within your feelings. So align with love, forgive those whose lives did not look the way you think they should look. They made their choices, they had their moment, and you must allow them that. And if you allow them that, you will stop suffering and you will come to understand that now your focus must be on your life. Are you in alignment with your desires, or are you going to follow in your family's pattern of sacrifice and suffering? We do not suggest you do that. We want you to know that as we draw to a close in this conversation, that the frequency that you have reached in this transmission can remain with you if you focus your mind on love and acceptance and peace. So as you step out into your day or into your night, depending on where you are, we want you to keep your focus on love. Do not turn the violent news on your television before you go to sleep tonight, but know that you are loved. Spirit is with you, and we are exerting a great deal of influence at this time, and that is what you are all feeling. You are feeling the need to connect to the heart, you are feeling the need to forgive, you are feeling the need to pull back from the world, and do not see it as a negative, but understand that that is what you must do to change your mind, and it is in changing your mind and your heart that you are going to change the world. You cannot change the world by moving the things around, the chess pieces around out there. You must change the way you look at the world, the way you look at yourself, and the way you look at your fellow brothers and sisters on this journey. You must bring as much love to each moment as you can. And the more of you that do that, the more love you will see on the planet. It is a revolution happening. Do not think you are alone. There are millions and millions and millions of people making the choice for love. And the more of you that do it, the more frequently you do it, the quicker the changes are going to show up on your earth plane. We need all of you now to use your discipline and focus to heal this place. You are teetering on the edge of darkness, and it is time now that we call upon all of you as beings of light and love to shine that light of love first on yourself. Forgive yourself, you've done nothing wrong, and to shine that light and love on your brothers and sisters, no matter what color they are, no matter what sex they are, no matter what religion they are. Look at where you hate, look at where you judge, and begin to add love there. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think there's any better place we could kind of end this one.
Yeah, totally. I have to say though that we have had an overwhelming amount of questions. We haven't gone through half of them even. So we might. I mean, I just suggest that people try to be as clear as possible with questions, and maybe we find another way of doing it to next time.
Yeah, it helps if you keep them a little bit shorter, but it's going to be, if we have this many people in, it's just going to be impossible for us to get to all the questions.
I guess we have to, we have to trust that all of the answers are information for everyone. I think a lot of people are going to get, they don't answer sort of very linearly, so I think a lot of people's questions may get answered even though they're not like directly related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just going to be something we have to kind of pick and choose to see.
Yeah, I guess the people who get picked, it's their destiny today to get picked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, as usual, this is a lot shorter for me than you guys because I'm not really present a lot of the time, but it's really fun. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're really enjoying doing this. It's a lot of fun. And I may even do a couple of videos this week on YouTube about some of those questions. So Ken, I'll maybe get some of those questions from you or Kieran, and I'll do a couple of videos related to those.
Yeah, and just a reminder to people that we're going to do one more free session after this, and then it will be a subscription-based thing for you guys if you want to tune in over the next year with us as we continue to do these sessions.
Yes.
Yep. We'll come with links and stuff later eventually, so that'll be good.
And I'm sure this broadcast will be up on YouTube over the next week, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Joining.
And we'll just hang in here for a chat after.